We are here at CYC 2024, and I'm grateful to have with me on Ministry Matters That Matter my friend Matt Heupel. I heard of the legendary Matt before I met him, and I heard about him through Rusty Pettis. Rusty Pettis was the youth minister. He and Dana Pettis worked with our girls when we were preaching at Graymere, and they still judge all youth ministers by Rusty Pettis.
Absolutely.
I can remember when we moved from Graymere, they would visit churches. How was it? Well, class was fine, but it wasn't Rusty.
It wasn't a Rusty Pettis church.
But Rusty's idol was the great Matt Heupel. So I heard so many stories that he was such a giant. There was no way he could live up to what Rusty had said about him when I finally met him. And of course, now I'm in Florence, and we get to do a lot together. And he has done, of course, he's had other degrees, but he's also done some coursework over at Heritage, and I have heard him speak many times at Woodlawn. My family's visited there on several different occasions, works with the Woodlawn Church of Christ, works with CYC, he works with Mars Hill. You were on the board, and then now I think, are you campus minister? You want to talk about what you're
the title is campus minister, which is kind of a misnomer, I guess, because it doesn't conflict with the school counselor. She handles a lot of the major issues that they have. I head up all the spiritual emphasis stuff. I make sure chapel and all the things and life retreats and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's got a lot of varied backgrounds, from youth ministry to preaching to leading big things like CYC or being a part of the team that does that, and also involvement in Christian education. So there's a lot he can share with us about. So let me just dive in. Let's start off in your youth ministry background. For those, we've got some youth ministers that work with young people that join us for the Ministry Matters podcast. Do you have some things that you would share with them, some tips on working with young people that you've learned over the years?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of things, but I guess I would speak really to the youth minister, first of all, to talk to them about, and I know this may be a sensitive topic for them, but because of our, millennials and things like that. But I think work ethic is huge. I think our youth ministers need to make sure they have a great work ethic. And I don't know if that falls on the elders or the minister. I don't think it needs to or has to. I think it really should rely on the youth minister of making sure, this is a serious job. It is a career. It's not just I always hated the term youth director, because I thought, we're not air traffic controllers, we're not directing, this is the way to heaven, but I like the minister term. We are professionals. We need to act professional at times. We goof off with the kids, but I think the key to winning the children and staying at a congregation is making sure your parents and families are involved, and you make sure your parents and families are involved by making sure you got a strong work ethic. If they can see you're working hard, they're going to jump right in with you and be a part of it.
Yeah. Professionalism and hard work and love will win respect every day.
And it gives you a ton of grace.
Yes.
A ton of grace if you make a mistake. Yeah.
All right. So you're preaching. Of course, once you've worked with young people, you're a youth minister for life. That you don't ever stop loving and working with young people. But you're a preacher too. So talk to us about, preaching. What does preaching mean to you when you're standing in front of the congregation at Woodlawn? What are you really trying to accomplish in a sermon on Sunday morning? Just talk to us about preaching from your perspective.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, of course, the message you want to get is you want the hearer who is in the audience to hear the story of the gospel. I mean, that's the primary emphasis of what preaching is. We are the heralds of the truth to get the message out there. But the sad part about today's world is we are so short attention span, and it is so difficult for people to sit down and stay for long lessons like they used to. Things have changed. So, my perspective on preaching is you just need to be personal. You need to be relational in your ministry with your preaching, and they need to see the same person that is in the pulpit that is out there during the week. And I think that is just, I am transparent as I can be up there. I'm not perfect. When I preach, I'll apologize in the middle of a lesson if I feel like I've done something wrong. I'll repent. I'll do that because I want them to know that I'm just like them. Several years ago, Steve Shelton, who was one of my mentors, I worked with Steve, and he did a lesson one time where he stepped down, and you may have done this, but he didn't stand on the podium. He stood down, and he says, "I want to get down here because I'm just like one of you." And that always impacted me, and to know that it was a real thing. But the important message is the truth, to get the truth out there. But if you want to be able to be effective in the pulpit, you got to be effective in day-to-day life. They got to see you out there ministering to them. We're not just preachers, we're ministers, and we need to make sure that we are involved in the lives of the people.
All right, so have you found any resources for preaching helpful over the years? Books, study Bibles, software, anything?
Yeah, well, the Bible.
Handy. Yeah.
When I started out a lot, I used a lot of the helps. Like, I remember the Tom Holland preaching series books. All of those books that he had on each book of the Bible was huge for me when I started. But now I just, when I get an idea, or if I have a theme, we have a yearly theme, and I would encourage ministers to get with their congregation, get to your elders and say, we want a theme, we want something that will direct our mindset throughout the year, and that kind of helps in my preaching. And I'll Google something, and I'll print up maybe 15 to 20 sermons on the text or the concept or the topic, and then I'll pray about it, and I'll keep it all week, and I'll just start skimming through, and I'll pick what I like and what I don't like, and then it always seems to have something else just come by itself, and it just kind of evolves from that. So
do you find you do more expository, topical?
Expository. I do a lot more expository with the topical theme. Like if the theme is, we had a recent theme about being zealous, and I took Acts 2, the last part of Acts 2, and took that to be more of a expository towards looking how the church was exciting and how it grew, and go like that.
Okay, good. All right, ministry in general, any tips on, like you talked a lot about connecting to people. Talk to me about, you got any tips on working with elders, for example, things that you've found helpful, and, etiquette in meetings with elders or building a relationship with elders, just anything about elder relationships that you found helpful?
I've always had a good relationship with all of my elders. I learned a lot from Brian Jarrett. I never really got to go in an elders meeting much at Atlas unless something was going on, or I might have been in trouble, or somebody had
you went a lot.
Somebody had an issue. Somebody had an issue. But when I went in those meetings with Brian, he would sit there with his legs crossed and his little notebook, and he would let them do their thing. And if they ever needed anything, they would ask him, and he would interject. And I learned a respect there that, they are still our shepherds. They watch over our souls, and I'm not one of them. And I don't know what the stress they're under. I don't know what the pressures they're under. So I've always just kind of respected my elders in the sense of, listen, I'm not going to enter myself or interject myself into your decision-making process. If you want ideas, I'll give it to you. But I really like just spending time with them, just one-on-one, going visiting with them, going out to lunch with them, having them over to your house, that kind of thing, to build a relationship with your elders. That way, I guess it sounds bad. You want to make it hard on them to let you go. You want them to love you so much that you get that grace if there is an issue.
Okay. All right, last thing. You're involved in Christian education, and so you're relating to young people, you're practicing leadership principles. Have you learned anything? I know you've learned a lot of things, but what are some things you've learned from that world of Christian education that might be helpful to those out there in ministry?
Never stop. Never stop. I'm 51 years old. I'm taking classes right now. I'm doing the practicum for the MDiv to finish it up. I can't remember not ever being in a class. And I think that has kept me, maybe not fresh, but kept my sword a little sharper. My honing skills to study there, staying in tune with resources, I don't think it's a secret, but the Heritage Library is the best in the world.
It's
to me. It is. That's the best of all our Christian colleges, and I take advantage of it. But just being in class always has kept me involved in study. So I was always doing something where I never made myself lazy, you know, and I think it's important that you stay in Christian education as long as you can, that you stay, keep trying to learn more, keep trying to get involved. And I'm a little partial to Christian high schools and elementary schools. I think our kids, their minds are so moldable at that age when they're young. And if we can just throw that stuff at them and let them soak it up so much, it's going to come back.
All right, I forgot. I should have asked this earlier. CYC. I mean, exploded. We got, I don't know, 12, 13, 14,000, I don't know what the numbers are. Anything you learned from that could help us?
Patience.
Okay. All right.
You know, these big events they're hard, but they're such a blessing. I mean, we had a man come in just a few moments ago. He's an elder from Kentucky. Him and his wife are up here on vacation. Didn't even know about what was going on here, and just saw buses pulled in to stop. And ended up having some books that somebody had over on display that he had wrote. And we took him in through here, and he was just almost in tears thinking, this is what heaven is like.
Wow.
You know, these big events, the singing.
Wow.
You know, and he's so excited to show it to him, just to say, look at this. If anything, CYC has taught me is church is in good shape.
That's awesome.
You know, we hear a lot of negative things, but when you look out here, there are families here. There are grandmas in wheelchairs out there. There are babies out there. It is a youth conference, but that lets you know.
Okay.
There's a future.
That's a good drop the mic. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing as well. You're making a difference. And just think about what he talked about, that taste of heaven. All the work you're putting in, someday you're going to enjoy the fruits of it, because you're going to spend eternity with all those people you've loved into their lives and they've loved into your lives. It's going to be a pretty special place. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Ministry Matters That Matter.